And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. The main track is fast, turf is firm. A Saturday afternoon of live racing action. Coming up, today's early scratches and changes. Race 1, start of the early pick 5 is clear. No changes in today's first. Race 2, beginning of the early pick 4, no changes. Race 3, scratch the 1A, Bell of the Ball. Scratch the 8, Karen's Honor. Race 4, start of a mandatory payout, pick 5. Scratch the 1, Super Chief. Scratch the 2, Market Alert. Race 5, start of the middle pick 4. Scratch the 8, Audacious. Scratch the 9, Just Music. Race 6, start of the pick 6. Scratch the 1, Take Home the Cup. Scratch the 7, AP Kid. Scratch the 8, Stars and Stripes. Race 7, start of the late pick 5. Scratch the 7, Tequilera. Scratch the 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. Race 8, late pick 4, scratch the 1A, 2B, jockey change on the 3, Raylu Gutierrez. The 8 will wear a cheek piece again. Scratch the 10 and the 12. Race 9, no changes. Race 10, scratch the 3, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Race 11, scratch the 13, Freedom Glider. Main track is fast, turf is firm. Up next, Talking Horses, Acacia Clement and Sarah El Badwi. Good luck, Belmont, at the Big A.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. I'm Acacia Clement alongside Sarah El Badwi. Thanks for your patience. We were waiting for scratches. It's been an eventful couple of days here, but we are racing today. Sarah, very happy to be back and looking forward to today. 2 stakes on the card.
Yeah, absolutely. A full card today, some competitive racing, and not an easy group of races that we have put together, even though we did not end up running yesterday's cards. Still a challenging day today awaits.
It is, but luckily it looks like the sun is shining and so far so good, knock on wood. First, a little housekeeping. Don't forget to sign up for Naira Bets. This is your perfect opportunity. You can have that $200 deposit match bonus using promo code MATCH200 when you sign up. Get started over at nairabets.com today. Track stats. You've got all the information over there. Naira Bets as well. You can bet smarter, win bigger, bet all the action. There's all sorts of trends and insights. That's over at nairabets.com as well. And a fun promotion today if you're playing Aqueduct and Keeneland, which I imagine most of you are. You can hit a win bet on races 1 to 5 at Belmont at the Big A or Keeneland and get a 10% bonus. So opt in at NYRABets.com. It's Pandagate. I like that.
It's got a little shout out.
I know. You can make sure you check out that. All sorts of fun promotions going on. Cross country pick 5 coming up today as well. Belmont at the Big A in Keeneland. That includes the Floral Park Stakes here and the Queen Elizabeth II over at Keeneland. See if Chad Brown can pick up another one over there in Kentucky. And then finally, America's Day at the races. We started a bit earlier today at 12 o'clock, so this is going to be the speed edition of Talking Horses this morning. We start things out on FS2 and then wrap up on FS1. We go through race 7 today on the card. So getting right into it, as mentioned, we're going to have to be a little bit quicker than normal on the card today. But Sarah, we'll take a look at the first race. This is a non-winners of 2 in live sprinting on the main track. And both you and I going against the 2, Messy the Magician, and you have a replay to show on this one. This is just, he's kind of that one number horse that you always wonder, is he going to run back to it coming off of a 2nd place finish?
He is, and this is a race that he was second in where he didn't make the lead in this race, and his win was when he was able to make it to the front. So I kind of wonder if he's that horse that really needs everything to go his own way and to get the lead to be successful. But I thought it was interesting that he does get the 10-pound weight break with apprentice Aram riding Otero, and who only has 1 win so far, but just started riding here this year. And maybe that will make a difference for a horse at this level that likes to be forwardly placed today. So I wanted to have him somewhere in the mix. But I think that there's plenty of options outside of that one, and you and I both went in different directions.
Yeah, give me the pitch for Aaliyah. I think I was too hard on this horse. I think it just... I probably picked him 2 and 3 back at big prices, liking him getting on the turf. Obviously, he's not a turf horse.
He's not, and he's been facing some decent horses on the grass. I just like that he has not been on dirt in a while. He hasn't really been given the opportunity to completely flop on this surface against winners as of yet, whereas others, I kind of feel like I know who they are now.
Yeah, I went with Very Funny. I think Carlos Figueroa does a really good job. He picks up this one. Obviously tough to claim off of Mike Maker, but I thought he was against the flow of the track last time out. He was 4 wide early, cutting back in distance, and it doesn't need to be that far back. Early Money coming into Forward Move, who I know he ran fine 2 starts back, but this will be his first dirt meant field.
Yeah, I mean, he's one that clearly there were turf intentions and they dug their heels in about that with him. So I just sort of wonder, maybe he could win this race, but I didn't want him at a super short price because this is not where they originally wanted to go.
Race 2, 7 furlong starter allowance here. There's several entries today.
Yes.
There's Tommy Two Stocks and Master of Arms, both you and I preferring the letter part of the entry, but we'll start off with Tommy Two Stocks and Dillinger coming out of that race at Saratoga behind Bromido.
And Bromido did come back to win a race where the pace was really hot up front and he was able to close in from off the pace just like this one. And Dillinger was the horse that was putting away the other pace setters early on in this race and trying to fight his way to the finish, whereas Tommy Two Stocks got more of that stalking trip. And I think that they could both certainly do well in here, but I sort of wonder if they might be aggressive again today with Master of Arms, a horse who was able to be in front of Dillinger in a couple of starts ago. And he can have more of that stalking trip, but I sort of wonder how aggressive they might be with him today and if there might be some other speed from Night Effect in this race as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. What I liked about Master of Arms is that he was a horse that, again, I thought was against the track last time out. Secret Rules has been in really good form recently. One who does have natural speed, but not a need the lead type. Obviously, with the entry in here, he's probably going to be a shorter price, though I do think Dillinger ran the better race out of there. And then you have debate. I mean, Michelle Giangiulio's barn has been in really good form recently.
Yeah, I agree. And while he is stepping up in class, I thought that he ran really well in that dirt race 3 starts ago because he was against the track that day where you did really want to save ground. And he was on the rail for maybe the first couple of seconds of that race from post 1, but then really quickly switched over to the 2 path and was already going widest of all into the turn. Ran very well to finish 3rd at 18-1 that day. I thought he got the setup last time as the pace stopped very abruptly in that race, but thought that maybe if there was a little bit of pace in here that he could still run well.
Race 3, this one, another sprint. This one for the fillies and mares, $25,000 claiming race. And this is a race I think we'll start with Spring Magic. We don't have the replay that you pulled of his last win, but this is a horse who's been running against a bit tougher, and he's going to be a very short price. I think it's really a question in this race of, do you trust her? And obviously, you and I feel that she's a little right for the picking.
I also think that I don't totally agree with Timeform US in here as a horse that is projected to be on the front end when she was able to secure some easy leads going a mile. And I don't necessarily see that for her unless she's really under the gun to get out of the gate and show that same type of speed with this cutback in distance. And the horse that I'm hoping is a little bit more aggressive is Full Moon Magic, who once upon a time did have a little bit of dirt sprint speed. It's been a long time since we've seen that, but this is a horse that ran well as a 2-year-old, and maybe if she hasn't just taken that step forward on the grass, if she's just an improved horse now, she could still run well enough to be competitive in here, especially if she ends up closer to the front.
Yeah, I have her in third. I thought that she had some dirtied up form with those recent turf races and going longer as well. I'm going to take a shot with the 5 Spiritual Lady. She has some tactical speed, but I thought could sit kind of just off the hip of however that pace develops, as we were just discussing. And I know that she won for 16 2 starts back, but I thought that was a horse that just kind of looked best in there. Devil Blue Dress came back. I think it's a little bit better than a $16,000 claiming race. You know, with Saratoga, you had a lot of horses dropping in there, and it was kind of those 2 horses were laying over the field. So she's claimed by Dave Donk, which we don't see a lot of. And then she comes back, and I thought actually ran pretty well last time out when taking a step up in class, coming back in here. And to me, she was just intriguing. I wanted to give her another shot.
Yeah, I think this is a spot to try to play against that favorite.
Race 4, a 6 furlong sprint, open $16,000 claiming race in here. Take a look. Well, let's start. There's several entries, so this race is a little bit confusing because you've got the entries in here. Let's start with Kunshan Bridge, who's the 1A, as this is a horse who's taking a drop in class. We have the replay to show as well.
I mean, he ran extremely well this day because this was during the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga weekend, where it seemed like horses were more reactive than usual to kickback. He was able to make up some significant ground towards the inside, and while he finishes significantly well beaten second to Jefferson Street, I mean, this race puts him right in the mix, especially with this significant drop in class that he's taking in comparison to that one. I just wonder how much pace there's going to be in this race for him, and he has not really run competitively over his last couple of starts.
And it does worry me that, yes, he was running against Speakeasy and Mariachi, Luminary, Jefferson Street.
I mean, big
really tough horses. They take a big drop in class last time to 32,000, and he shows absolutely nothing. And now another drop in class, and this is obviously the softest company that he's been in. I don't know. I think he's a little bit dressed up a bit.
I do too. And Super Chief is not playing, so he's not really part of an entry anymore. Right. So I understand that aspect from a wagering standpoint. Maybe he's a little bit more interesting now, but I have my suspicions with him that he's just not one that I want to take at a super short price, since he will be pace compromised regardless of what sort of race he ends up running today. And so that left me with my crazy long shot of Bourbon's Hope, who has been aggressively ridden at times. And if he can show some of that speed once again, he's a horse that has been run over his head repeatedly. Yeah. When he's run at a level where he makes some sense, he usually shows up. Is it good enough to win? I don't know, but I don't really trust the shorter prices in this race, and I want him to be forward yet again.
20 to 1 on the morning line, so you get a nice price in there. I take a shot with the 7 Poggy, who will be a little bit more of a price. Comes out of running against New Jersey bred allowance types. You like Michelle Giangiulio in the last race. I like her horse here. Back in this barn, I thought he ran well. 2 starts back with kind of sustaining. I know he's not necessarily a winning type, but this is the lowest that he'll have run at in a while. We'll go on to race 5, spend a little bit more on this one. This is the Grade 2 Sands Point, a mile and an eighth on the turf for the 3-year-old fillies. And let's start things off as far as the conversation goes with Style Points, who may be the best horse in the race. She comes out of a win in the Virginia Oaks, but she is one that is going to be closing from off of it.
She is, and as is often a lamentation that we have around here, you have short fields and turf races and not a ton of pace confirmed on early for some of those races, and so that does put her up against things from a tactical standpoint, but I agree. I think that she is likely the most talented horse in this race, and I think that she's just been keeping the best company of anybody else in here consistently. I mean, she's running up against some of the more well thought of 3-year-old fillies throughout this entire season, not just as of late. And so I think that she is one that I wouldn't necessarily be throwing out just because she is coming from off the pace, though I did want somebody else on top.
Well, as far as Makanga goes, I looked at her for a long time. I actually picked her in the Jockey Club Oaks last time
So did
out.
I.
Because that was also a time when you really wanted those inside trips on the turf. She looked to be lone speed in there. She looks to be lone speed again in here. Cutting back in distance, it's just, they need to figure out a way to get her to settle and relax, because the last two, she has sprinted away from the field.
She has. I kind of wonder if the cutback in distance will be helpful to her today, because she had that one race where she made John Velasquez look like he was an apprentice rider with his feet in the dash and pulling.
And strong.
And I mean, that's
really strong.
That's not a knock against him. That is how aggressive she
Yeah.
was and how keen she was to go forward in that race a couple starts back, where she obviously tired in there. But I thought that she was a little bit more comfortable last time, and maybe now they've been experimenting with who rides her, and maybe now Jose Lezcano getting aboard can just go forward with her and then have her settle with a little bit less ground to work with. I'm giving her one more shot, but today's the day to be done with her if she does not run well today, because after this, it really doesn't matter. She's able to get those leads. If she can't settle and sustain it, what does it matter?
The two Spalade is one of two in here for Chad Brown. She is a horse that's coming out of a fourth place finish in the Lake Placid behind her stablemate Grayosh. They added the blinkers 2 starts back at Monmouth. That was to her benefit. We'll take a look at, is it her last race or 2 starts back?
Might be a surprise, but
We'll find out.
It is the Boiling
2
Springs.
starts back, the Boiling Springs. So this is her win, the first time with blinkers on.
And this is a race where I thought that she had a pretty soft trip, but she also had a soft trip in the Lake Placid and ended up finishing 4th in there. And she just saved all the ground to me before angling out. This is like the textbook turf trip that you want to be successful in these grass races. So at 9 to 5, I just wanted to go in a different direction as far as her, because I haven't seen her overcome much as of yet in those last couple of starts.
I think that's a good point. And then you have her stablemate, Shade of Pale, who I don't want any part of, and I see that you agree. The pace completely fell apart last time out. I know that she won for a mile and an eighth, and her pedigree suggests that. I'm still not convinced that distance is really better for her, but I just thought that she got the absolute dream setup to win this last race.
And it was a big improvement from her prior 2 races. And now maybe that was just, she's racing into fitness. She's had a little bit more time to develop. She's stretching out a little bit more in distance. But I, like you, also think it was a function of the pace of this race, really working in her favor and being able to draw away from this field. And I think this is one of those races that might look a little bit better than it actually was. And also, who was she really facing?
Yeah, a very good question. And then quickly, let's touch on Just Deny, because I know that she is one who's a little bit dressed up as well, finishing 2nd in that Jockey Club Oaks. Thought that she got the good trip. She is cutting back in distance. Could she improve? Maybe she's just a better horse now. I've thought that she's actually gotten better when being able to go longer, because it allows her to get into her stride and settle, because she's such an energetic filly.
I agree. And as we saw when you were talking about Makanga, she completely could not get the distance in this race, and Beautiful Love was able to get the win, a horse that was maybe against the racetrack in her last start. But you have Caldwell Loves Gold running on for 3rd in here. It seems like the pace is starting to come apart in the later stages. She ran well, but to me, that's her one really good race. And her races prior to that, we haven't seen those horses go on and be super productive going forward. So I was a little bit out on her.
Fun race as far as the Sands Point is considered. We'll take a look at race 6. We'll take a break after 6. This one, a 2-year-old race, 7 furlongs on the main track, and we're not trying to get creative here. Q-Aiden, this is obviously a very strong race that this colt does come out of. The favorite, as we'll take a look at his first race where he finished 3rd. This is a horse to me too, Sarah, that looks like he's going to love the added furlongs, just that long stride. And Tip Top Thomas, who beat him, ran really well in the Champagne last weekend.
Yeah, really exceeded my expectations with the very sprinty pedigree that he had, but running a game second to Chancellor McPatrick. And I know Rookie Card didn't come back to win his next race at a very short price, but he still ran well and sort of solidified that this is still a race with some talent in it, at least amongst the top 3. But I agree with you from a physical perspective. He just looks like that bigger type that's going to appreciate a little bit more ground. And of the horses that had a little bit of experience in this race, they're not quite as fast by a long margin.
Yeah.
And the other ones in here that are their first-time starters, they have pedigree, but it's not overwhelming. This is the horse that's working well with the pedigree for the connections that's so well meant on debut.
There's not a ton that immediately grabs your attention. Fort Nelson is the half-brother to Lake Avenue. Dr. Incel, the 5, kind of interesting. The Dam is the sister to Princess of Silmar, but no real kind of story first-time starters. We'll see how it plays out, but a lot seems to revolve around that one with experience. Take a quick break. Be back with race 7, the Floral Park, after this.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
You're watching Talking Horses. Welcome back, Sarah and Acacia. As we have race 7 coming up next, we're doing the speed edition of Talking Horses this morning on Saturday, starting a little bit late here, waiting for some scratches. But 7th race is the Floral Park Turf Sprint for fillies and mares, Sarah, and another fun race in here. Why don't we start off with taking a look at the Sensible Lady from Laurel, where Loon Cry and Love Appeals come out. You're going against both of them in here.
Mildly so. I mean, I think they're both very live horses and likely winners of this race. And I think that I like Loon Cry perhaps just a little bit more than you might, but she's been ultra consistent this year. I mean, she's been running very well in all 3 of her starts, getting the wins for all of them. And then Love Appeals is maybe going to be a little bit more forward than she is. And I think that might be to her benefit in here. They both make a lot of sense coming in. I don't really have any major knocks against either of them. I just wanted the horse that was dropping in class a little bit and maybe had some trips in her last couple of starts in Secret Money, who really she wasn't tight at that start at Kentucky Downs. She had a little bit of traffic in the start prior to that where she did still run well against some horses that we saw come back and do some running. And then I think if you can get back to the Secret Money that she was last year around this time, those races put her right in the mix, and even earlier this year. So that's the horse that I kind of wanted in here rather than the 2 that I think will be coming from a little bit further off of things. But we're both out on a risk threshold who had another perfect trip last time.
She did. And here's the big thing for me as to why I sided mildly with Love Appeals, because she does have the tactical speed. I think that Loon Cry recently has obviously been better and in better form. Secret Money has the class, as you mentioned, but Secret Money tends to come from very far off of it. Love Appeals, I thought, could kind of be in that stalking position. And with the scratches of How About Them Apples, who looked like she could potentially be forward, Tequilaria, that means risk threshold is likely loose again. We'll take a look at our last race. But yeah, as you said, I think it's not quite as quick as that 89 buyer speed figure suggests, but here's the big pivotal thing I wanted to show the start. She's not the quickest from the gate, but then Junior Alvarado, who was aboard that day, and you imagine Manny Franco's going to do the same, hustles her out to the front. It was inside speed on the turf. Again, she got the perfect setup, the perfect trip, and she was able to control. The turf has been much more fair, but I was just concerned about taking somebody in this race who could be coming from further off of it.
And that's totally fair. And I think that we often see speed be so critical in all of these races, whether it's turf, dirt, whatever distance it might be. But I just did not want her as the favorite coming off a race like this, where, as you mentioned, she did not have the quickest gate speed. She was quickly put on the front end. She was able to win very comfortably. She was able to win her start prior to that very comfortably. Is she good enough? Is she fast enough? I don't want to find out at 5-2.
No, absolutely. She's likely going to be a short price, especially with that tactical advantage in here. That is the Floral Park. We'll see how that plays out. Race 8, a mile on the turf. This is a New York bred allowance coming up here. And why don't we start things off with the replay of that September 15th race where about 90% of the field comes out. Call Me Harry painted in here. He was on the also eligible list, so he's not going to play in here today. But you still have the second, third, fourth, etc. finishers coming out of here. So we're taking a look at Better Lucky Than Good, who, given the trip, might have run the best race in here. Lock and Key, who was close. And then you also have Gem Mint 10, who had some different types of tactics that I think put him up against it.
Yeah, I agree completely. Agent Creed was also coming out of this race, and the horse that you and I both end up picking on top, who I think had the worst trip of those in that start. But, I mean, Call Me Harry has been a consistent horse in the past. He's sort of refining that form now. I feel like Lock and Key has been consistent, but he's not been consistently winning as of late. He kind of made that early move and then backed off maybe a little bit last time. And then Better Lucky Than Good just ran very well given the trip. But the horse that's going to be the better price of them is the one that I feel as though just really never had the chance to show us what he could or could not do in that last start. And I think that there's a reasonable argument that he has improved since switching over to the Cassie barn.
Clear Conscience ran very well 2 starts back. He used tactical speed that day, and then with the start last time out, just totally taken out of contention. You saw how that race did play out, and with Call Me Harry, he's a horse that has speed, has a ton of backlash, and he'd been running for the optional claiming tag. So he was able to kind of get into this condition, and nobody was claiming him. So he just kept coming back and winning these races recently and finding some of that form again. So Clear Conscience, totally up against it. I agree. I think this is the right spot for him to potentially turn things around, hopefully with a better break.
Yes, hopefully.
As race number 9 coming up a mile on the main track for this allowance here, as we'll start things off with a replay of Escalation Clause and General Banker. Escalation Clause is probably going to be one that takes quite a bit of attention in this race. You're going to go with him to potentially be stronger second off the layoff, and I think he really needed that race, especially as we look at the start where he was acting up in the gate and then totally puts himself behind the 8 ball at the beginning.
Right. I mean, this is just not something that's easy to overcome for anybody, let alone a horse that has been having that time off that he has had. And I like that he is coming right back to the races. He's getting that little bit extra furlong that he had when he was able to break his maiden. And I thought that given the start for him, I like that he still did some running in this race. At least he attempted to make up some ground, have that closing kick of sorts. And I thought that he was one that could improve second off the layoff. I don't know how short of a price he's going to be. This is not the easiest field to be running against. I think you could make the case for a lot of horses in here. But given the start that he had, I just want to give him another opportunity and don't really think that he'll be the favorite in this race.
That's fair, and he did run on a bit. You saw him on the rail to finish 5th. They're kind of, I thought, running in place a bit. It was late. It was General Banker who just kind of had the inside track and the spot where you wanted to be, dressed up a bit in there. But Escalation Clause, like I said, second off the layoff and stretching out a bit, and a better post too. He was really far outside last time. Yeah, he definitely will be stronger today. I want to give another shot to Pentathlon, who he was one of those horses that I felt, kind of had to put up or shut up 2 starts back when he was such a short price as part of that entry. And he did win. And then coming back last time where he used speed, going a mile and an 1/8, he cuts back a bit to the mile today. I think this is just a better spot for him, and maybe he's a horse that's just kind of one of those classic Shug McGahee ones that's getting better as he goes.
Doesn't that race 2 back though kind of live in isolation
for
many of the horses in that race?
Yep, 100%.
He doesn't
Quando is still trying to win. Yeah.
He doesn't need to run a 96 buyer to win here, but I just kind of worry that he keeps getting bet off of that race. And so, yeah, I feel like he was also a little bit bet off that race last time, and he ran a good 3rd, but I still sort of want to see him run a race that's quite that fast again before I take him at a shorter price, but he might be the forced choice in here. So, I mean, who knows, but I think we both agree that Rocketeer is the horse to beat.
Yeah, I'm going to take him on top, even though he likely will be a shorter price. But they tried the blinkers last time, and 2 starts back, he ran really well. He was the only one to last out of that quick pace, and then last time out, at just a few strides out of the gate, it was kind of a scramble, and then with the blinkers, he just got so keen and just dragged Tyler Gaffley onto the front. There was nothing I could do. So blinkers immediately coming off, which looks like the right choice.
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking at that race and thinking, Tyler, if you keep looking back, you must think that you have something, or you must be trying to fake somebody out, because this is a very confident ride,
He got an
or at
arm
least
workout
appearing that
that
way.
day.
But I mean, yes, I think that the blinkers coming off, it'll help him settle a little bit more, and you know that he has the speed when they can ration it effectively.
Race 10 on the turf, New York bred maiden claiming race for fillies and mares, and take a look at the August 28th race. Will today finally be the day for Splashy, who was just beaten to nose last time out? You do see Better Be Smart coming out of this as well, who finished 4th in here.
Yeah, I opted to go with Better Be Smart just because she had been more a part of the pace in this race, and it seemed as though that was starting to come apart in the very late stages, which helped a horse like Splashy and Just Heart, who was able to get the win. Whereas I felt as though with Better Be Smart, she was still sort of trying to fight on towards the end and had that forward position. And the other horses that I thought would really want to be forward in this race were sort of on the also eligible list, and Majulu coming out. So that led me to have a little bit more interest in Better Be Smart, but Splashy's way the horse to beat. Second time in for a tag, always seems to show up and do some sort of running, and it might be enough today.
Maybe she just finds her friends today, finds the right place. I thought that the number 4, Top of the Table, was a little interesting. First time dropping in class. She was kind of hustled 2 starts back, and that pace totally fell apart. But she was a horse that was forward. Last time out had a little bump at the start and wasn't as quick. I'm hoping Raylu's a bit more aggressive with her today. And again, just a first time dropping in class, and been stuck with outside posts in her last couple of races. I thought could maybe put herself in a good position today.
Yeah, I saw what you saw with her, getting that drop in class and really kind of being against it from a trip standpoint. I just sort of wonder if she's going to really appreciate this cut back in distance now that she goes second off a layoff. But once you get outside of the top couple of players in this race, it's extremely wide open.
There's not a lot to sink your teeth into.
No,
yes.
and I really wanted to like Superstar Susan a little bit
I
more.
know.
That race last time was not very good.
No, and I know that she had an outside post. She's drawn towards the outside again today.
2 back was fine.
Two back, she ran well. I know, she's just tough. She's tough to warm to.
Yeah.
The number 11 Boston Strong Mama does draw in, though she did not show much in that August 28th race as well. One more to go, and it's a fun way to wrap up the card with the 2-year-olds, a mile and a 16th on the grass for the nightcap here. And let's start with the experience on the grass. This is the debut for Davy Crockett, so 2 back for him, and then Dragoneer's first start. These are horses that ran well, Dragoneer being very far off of it. But it felt to me, Sarah, like this was a race that could be a bit more wide open with some fresh faces that might be interesting.
I had the same sentiment that you did, and that's sort of what led me in the direction that I went in. But I thought they both ran well in here, and with those first-time starters, you're always taking that guess, and I think that you do know what you're getting a little bit more so with horses like Davy Crockett and even Dragoneer, who was entered and then scratched as the race came off the turf. But I wanted to go with Tis Freedom, who's getting onto the turf for the first time. It's not an overwhelming turf pedigree, but there is enough to suggest that there would be a slight improvement. And the 2-year-old races that he was in on the dirt, we've seen them be very productive, moving forwards with horses like Showcase, then winning a graded stakes, and then Jonathan's Way, running so impressively at Churchill Downs. So I think that he's been facing the better company than maybe some of the others. If he can take to the turf and possibly improve, which he'll need to, it could be worth taking at a bit of a price in here.
And while there's not a ton on the bottom side, I have loved the Tis the Laws on the grass, and
Yeah.
they seem like they really handle it so well. I go to the 8 Snooky Bear, who's also getting onto the turf for the first time for Rick Dutrow. There's plenty of turf pedigree on the bottom side. He's half 2 Grade 2 winner Friars Road, who was a good turf winner. Actually, 4 out of the 5 siblings won on the grass. Buy More Than Ready. Looking at this horse, thought that he actually ran quite well on the dirt. I know out of town first time out, but maybe this is just his preferred surface. And then we both have Davy Crockett in there, and then pretty wide open after that, or I should say Atomic Age, a horse that broke very slowly first time out and ran well at Saratoga for Chad Brown.
I just have to think that if somebody can run in here, that they might be a little bit better
Agreed.
than that first race showed.
Agreed.
But he was up against it a little bit with that slow start, so I don't want to hold that against him too much, and certainly could be the kind of horse that I think, oh, well, this horse may not be that interesting at a short price, and they ended up improving significantly. So I wouldn't leave out completely, but I don't want to take on top.
Fair enough. As a pretty wide open way to wrap up the card with the 2-year-olds, as it often is. We'll see what they do getting onto the turf for the first time. Thanks for joining us for our speed edition of Talking Horses. Just a reminder, you can bet all of the action over at Naira Bets. Be sure you have signed up. If you're not signed up yet, what are you waiting for? This is your opportunity. Use promo code MATCH200 to sign up. Get started up to a $200 deposit match bonus over at nairabets.com. And then if you're wondering what to do then, we've got track stats for you. So you've got all of the information available. Bet smarter, win bigger. Check out nairabets.com for all of that info. Then you can have a little bonus. Bet Belmont at the Big A or Keeneland. Hit a win bet on races 1 to 5 at either of those tracks and get a 10% bonus. For that, you must make sure to opt in over at Naira Bets. Cross country pick 5 coming up today as well. We've got Belmont at the Big A and Keeneland part of that sequence. The QE2 at Keeneland goes as race 8. The Floral Park race 7 here in New York will kick off that sequence. Check out naira.com/cross country. And then finally, hope you'll join us on America's Day at the races starting early today at 12 o'clock on FS2. We switch over to FS1 at 2, going through race 7, the Floral Park. And then, of course, after that, you can watch the rest of the races on simulcast. So that'll do it, Sarah. Thank you very much.
We got through 11 races in
I
what,
know.
30 minutes?
How about that?
Pretty
That's got to be one of the fastest.
I think so.
A new record. Thanks for joining us. Good luck today, everyone. Chris Griffin, he will not be talking as quickly, but he's getting ready for a Big 11 race card on this Saturday. Good luck today.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.